Yeah, yeah. Too bad, too bad, too bad, too bad, too bad, too bad. She got me thinking that she too bad, too bad, too bad, too bad, too bad, too bad. She got me thinking that she.
Hello. Say the same thing every time. And I will continue while this episode is happening, or while the episodes keep happening. Hello, my name is Joel Casanova. Welcome back to episode 7 of the BeatHunter Dance Talk Show. I am your host for the evening. I am a mobile dance educator, and I created this platform in order to bring people together, in order for them to enjoy and love and learn about dance, and get some great insight from other people instead of getting like super famous people. We're getting people that are growing and living life just like you. And so some of the people that we're going to talk to, or I'm going to show you the video of the conversation I had today, are my two friends, Katherine and Samuregz. Super amazing. Just super side note, they're in a group with me that I created called Fresh Air, and basically we're an international group that gets together and help each other build the dance world in the communities that we're a part of. So we made a video for New Year's, which was to the song name is escaping me now, but it's the 5,000, 2,500, 600 minutes, and it's Seasons of Love. Yes. To Seasons of Love, we dropped that video on New Year's to basically wish everyone a happy New Year, from 3 different continents: Africa, America, and South America, or North America and South America. So yeah, basically I'm just kind of picking their brain about times in their lives where they were inspired or where they inspired other people and what that means to them. And this episode is especially educational, but in such an anecdotal way. It's so like, this is an experience I had in life, and I hope you take some nuggets that you need for your own life, where you are right now and who you're talking with and who you're involved with. So it's a really long conversation, so I don't want to take up too much time at the beginning or the end. So enjoy this conversation that I had with Samuregz and Katherine. All right, so these are my two friends, Katherine and Sam. Basically, these are the first 2 people that I had that came to mind when I thought about doing this like panel. Usually panels are like 3 or more, but I think we could do a panel with just 2 people. So both of them are very diverse in what they do, like how they use dance, having projects and having a studio and having not together, but Katherine has a studio. Sam has a group of people that he dances with. They both teach. Katherine has been has done like worship conferences and things like that. And Sam also sings and dances for his church and all this different stuff. So I'm really excited because they interact with a lot of people. So a lot of interactions happen, and that's where really inspiration cultivates, you know. So first things first, thank you guys so much for being on this Zoom chat. And then we're just gonna start from the very beginning. So who and or what like inspired you to dance in the first place? Like, what was the scenario like when you first began dancing? Like, paint that picture for us. Let's start with you, Sam, and then Katherine, you can answer after.
So for me, I started dancing in 2008, and at that point, dance wasn't much a thing from Kenya. I'm from Kenya, guys. So dance wasn't so much, it was more of a hobby than anything that's really taken seriously. And I remember just at that point, I don't think I was saved. When I was in high school, I couldn't even dance to save my life. And then I used to see a lot of dance movies. It was the time Strong Fair was happening, you got served. And I looked at those guys and I was like, you know what? I want to be like these guys. And specifically, I wanted to be like Omarion and Chris Brown, because they could do everything. They could sing, they could dance, they could act. And I was like, I want to be like these guys. and that's how I started. Saw someone doing a head spin in Kenya, and I was like, oh, so we can do these things here as well. And then now that started a journey for me where I'd literally copy moves from these moves. You know, like I'd pause, imitate the routine, then play again until I got most of those routines in those movies. And that's how I got to learn. Because YouTube wasn't a thing at that point. You know, it was one of those things you have to go to a cyber cafe and spend money and time. So in high school, you don't have the money to go sit a whole day in a cyber. So yeah, and then I moved from the town I was in, which is Nakuru, to Nairobi, and that's when I joined a crew. And now I got to meet other dancers who really pushed me to become the dancer that I have been for the last 10 years or so, I believe. Actually, no, 13. Yes. So yeah, that's literally just how I started, and that's the tip of the iceberg.
Got it. So you met a crew when you went to Nairobi that was more like this was more of a thing in Nairobi than your hometown? Or was it, did you look for it, or did it kind of like hop into your lap, or?
So the part I think I forgot was I joined a crew another crew in Nakuru, but we weren't like a good crew. We were dancing for fun. We were a crew that danced for fun. You know, like if I was to put it in the context of the States, it's a crew that meets together to do TikTok videos. Really intense, and then it's not TikTok videos for like blueprint, it's like the TikTok videos for hey, you know. So but now the Kenyan version where you do the same move 20,000 times. And then Nairobi is more advanced in terms of the arts than most towns was at that point. Right now other towns, especially the major towns, have really caught up. And so when I moved to Nairobi, someone who knew me in Nakuru and as a dancer, they were like, yeah, there's this group. I think you need to go check it out. So I went, checked out the group for the first time. It was full of ladies. I was a very young person, so I was like, these guys can't be serious. Went, joined another crew for a month. They let me down, went back to the group that had ladies. And that's actually how I got to grow in the crew that I looked down upon. Wow. That's this. Never judge a book by its cover. We actually did competitions with that crew.
Wow.
So yeah, even before I joined it, they had come second in one of the competitions. And at that point, the group had 6 people, and of those, no, was it 6 or 8? And of those, only 2 were guys. The rest were ladies. So yeah, I think it really taught me a lot about not judging people based on what they see, what you see. Because we never looked like competition material. Even when I was there, I think I was the only one who looks like a dancer. The rest looks like they were just coming as fans. And then they go on stage and they look like totally different people.
Yeah. So what about you, Katherine? So like what was the scenario around that?
Yeah, well, for me, I come from a very musical family, so there was always music in the house, and I think I danced from the cradle, basically, probably from the womb. But it was a typical story, I think, for many little girls. I went to my first ballet class at age 4, and just never looked back from there. But also for me, I remember, well, my personality is, as soon as I learn something that I enjoy, I immediately want to share it with other people so they can enjoy it too. And so I remember I was probably about 6 because I was just learning to write. And I remember deciding that, I need to teach everybody in the neighborhood how to do this thing that I've learned how to do because it's so much fun. And so I organized a class that was going to be teaching the kids in the neighborhood. And it got about as far as designing a brochure. And I can remember running back and forth between where I was in the playroom and my dad's office saying, how do you spell this word? You know, and writing it down. And I don't think anyone ever came to the class. I don't think I ever had the class, but I thought about doing it, and then fast forward, when I was 16, I started teaching just as a fun summer project in my basement, and discovered that I really loved it, and then the rest is history. And I kept dancing up until I graduated from high school, and then I went to college, because I never really considered the fact that maybe dance was something I could do beyond just for fun in my childhood. And I went through one semester of college without dancing, and I decided this is not going to work. I need to dance. And so I started dancing in college as well. I minored in dance. And then when I graduated, I had another decision. You know, I've been doing the studio as sort of a side project since I was 16. And at that point, I realized, when I was trying to decide, do I go get a real person job or do I keep doing the studio? I decided, well, I'm just going to go for it. And so it's been several years now, and the studio's grown, and it's become such a wonderful thing. And I still do dance, but most of my focus is on teaching now.
So I know you play the piano, and obviously you said your family's a musical family, so music is always around. So what made you, I mean, you were 4, but like, do you know why you didn't like stick to like, I mean, obviously you know how to play the piano, so you kept growing and playing the piano beyond 4, but like, how did you learn about the studio, and why take the class? Or was it just like, well, she likes dancing, so let's put her in a class?
It was a lady in our church who was teaching classes, and it was a family friend, so we knew the people, and a lot of the little girls in this church were going to this class, and so it was just the thing that all the moms in the church were doing. They were taking their little girls, and that lady moved away after 2 years, but at that point, there was no going back from that point. I had discovered it. It was going to be a part of my life. But that lady, I'm still in contact with her now, and it's really fun to watch her be able to see how, you know, what I started out doing in my basement was very similar to what she started doing in church. You know, it's just a very small studio for lots of friends coming in to learn. And so in some ways, I'm sort of carrying on the legacy that she started years ago.
So, okay, so then when you started, like you said, you started in your basement. So when you started in your basement, was that like you said it was just like a summer project originally, and then it evolved into a studio. Like, first of all, like, why start a class? I mean, obviously it seems like your personality, but then second of all, like, was it like, this is what I want to do with my life? Or was it like,
oh,
probably not going to go any further?
It was
like,
never that, no. So yeah, I'm not really a planner, I'm a daydreamer. And I don't necessarily, at least especially when I was young, I never really put 2 and 2 together. Oh, these are things I actually could do in real life. And so I had been for several years at that point learning about dance pedagogy just for fun, and trying to understand how to teach dance in different ways. And I had been, you know, me being the imaginative child that I was, I had been, you know, designing studios and creating curriculum just purely for fun. I had no thought of actually doing this for real. And then once, when I was 16, my mom just says, well, why don't you get some friends together and teach a little class? And so I said, oh, I could, couldn't I? And so I did for that one summer, and by the end of the summer, it was clear that it was something that I enjoyed doing, and so I just kept doing it. You know, some kids work at Chick-fil-A or something. I taught ballet classes. And so it's just what I did as my sort of side job. I taught, and in the beginning, I think I was teaching 3 classes a week, and I was, you know, 3 to 5 classes a week up through the end of college, and then I started more. But it was never something that I said, this is what I want to do with my life. It just sort of happened. Yeah. And I went along with it, and it's just been a huge blessing.
Man. So at that point, both of you have started dancing, right? So you are like teaching classes, like 3 to 5 classes over the summer or whatever, and like you are just like, I'm doing this in my basement. This is what I do. And then you are in Nairobi and you are with a crew. So obviously different stories happen and like the journey goes on. Along the journey from that point up until like today, could you share with us a time that you were inspired as a dancer? Like someone so you saw something or someone impacted you in some kind of way that you were already a dancer, it didn't spark the dance bug, I guess you could say. Let's just do the same thing. Sam and then Katherine.
I don't think there's like just one for me. I keep making this joke that I quit dance every year. Right now it's a good. For the longest time, it's not been a joke. I literally quit dance every year. And then God does something and revives that passion. When I was starting out the career side, I remember after finishing, because I have a degree in BCom, and that's business. I remember thinking, do I really want to do this for the rest of my life? And then an opportunity came to go for a mission in Germany. And then we went there for about 6 weeks. I came back, I was all fire. I was like, yes, this is what I want to do for the rest of my life. Then I was broke. And yeah, I can see nothing visual. That's the nice. And then life happened in a way that just broke me. And that's like, I am not so sure I want to do this. Then the following year again, we went for the same mission. There's a time when I got to train dancers for about 3 years, and most of them ended up in leadership positions in some places. And for me, I was like, I'm no longer teaching dance, I'm actually developing leaders. So that's actually how my perception of dance started to change. So I was like, okay, maybe I can do this. Again, things got tough. Thought, I'm just going to quit. Then again, something happens. You get work that is really impactful, and you get to hear the stories of the kids being transformed beyond the skill, because it's not just, hey, my child is a good dancer. You hear things like, my child is more focused, or my child has more confidence since he started dancing. And those are the things that really inspired me to go on. I can say it was mutual, because you inspire the person and then they end up inspiring you when they tell you the stories. And then COVID happened, and I was probably at one of my lowest ever points. Then I heard this song by Fucking and Country called Together. And I think I'm like Katherine, I'm a daydreamer. So I have like ideas upon ideas. And at times they work. Some of them I'm still waiting for them 8 years later. I'm like, God, well, if you guys know I can get a lot of money to do projects, I'll appreciate it. Even guys in the comment section. Yeah, good visual. Anyway, back to the story. When I heard the song Together by Fucking and Country, by Tori Kelly and Kurt Franklin, I called up 7 of my friends and I was like, would you guys want to do a random project? They're like, yeah, sure, cool. So I gave them timelines. I was like, for the next 1 week, you guys listen to this song. And then I sent them a routine. It was a very simple routine. The kind of routine where professionals get mad at you because they feel like you're undervaluing their skill. But for me, I knew, because I wanted synchronicity, I couldn't do like an intense routine. So I did something simple, sent it to them, scripted the dance. They did the dance, shared it, and tagged Fucking and Country. And, for me, that was it. A few days later, I'm getting into my inbox. I'm getting into social media, and I'm like, wait, Fucking and Country liked your video. I was like, what? Okay. And then the following day, it's not just likes, they're like, so Fucking and Country shared and sponsored your video. I'm like, whoa, hold up. Award winners are sharing my video. I'm in Kenya, for crying out loud. I'm not like this big name in the States. Even if it was Kione and Mari, you'd understand. But this is some guy in Kenya who even Kenyans don't take seriously. And then I was like, cool. Then they emailed me the first time and they're like, so, hey, Sam, thank you so much for doing this. Really inspired us, blah, 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 yada, yada. I'm like, this thing is moving so fast. As in, at that point, I'm hitting lows, but then this blessing keeps coming. And I was like, wow, I didn't know how to react. A few weeks later, I think it was like 2 weeks later, they DM me and they're like, hey guys, so here's the thing. We're actually doing a remix because that video inspired us and we want to invite dancers all over the world. We've shared it on social media, but we'd also like you to be part of it as well. You guys reached out to me personally to be part of a video. It felt surreal. It felt like I was dreaming. At that point, Kenyans are just over there. I'm from Kenya, go you! We did the remix. We were part of the remix, so at least I can always say I'm part of an international band before I died. At least I was in a dance video. And that is not one of those where, as dancers, you're not really seen. Like you can actually tell someone, this is me, and they can say, oh yeah, I actually saw you in that video. Yeah. And then after that, they shared again, and then after that, you reached out. So in such a short time, I felt like when everything else was crumbling, this was moving so fast. I was struggling to catch up. And to be honest, that is one of the things that really gave me the energy to keep dancing. Because in terms of being inspired, that in recent memory, that is what probably returned the spark. Because the spark was dying to an extent. And to be able to challenge and reach out to an international band to do something huge, the dancers may never know. Every other person who watched the video may never know. But for me, at the back of my mind, that gave me hope to realize that what I'm doing is on an international level. It's not just like on a Kenyan level. It's not just something that Kenyans can look at and enjoy. It's something that can inspire them. Because for Kenyan countries, one of the biggest names in Christian music right now, you know. So I don't know if it's this. I mean, I'm guessing it's the same because they won awards. I think it was the Dove Awards. So I'm kind of hoping you win Dove Awards because you're sort of a big deal. And for me, that was, I can say, one of the most inspirational things that have happened to me to ensure that when the vision I had for the dance industry side, it hasn't picked up as much as I wanted to. At least I've kept that dream alive. Yes, I got excited. So,
Oh my. So for those of you who don't know, I have this group called Fresh Air. I started a group called Fresh Air, where it's basically all of us coming together to collaborate on projects and collaborate on ideas so we can go back into our own communities and kind of have impact there. So we can kind of strengthen the dance world by building bridges. So it's not just like we're all in our own little bubbles in the dance world. So when I was part of the King Country video remix video as well, they put the credits, and so I started messaging all these people on the thing, and so I saw the Dawn project. And I googled it, and it was like, oh, Kenya, and I was like, that's so cool. And so I reached out to them, and then I got in contact with Sam. So now he's part of the group. So when I reached out, I had no idea that you had already done that before. And so we're getting all this stuff like post inspiration, you know. What about you, Catherine?
Just one thing. I actually did the first video while battling. I was on the verge of depression, so I actually directed the first video from my bed. I wasn't even like up and about moving. I got out of my bed, did the routine, got back into my bed, and I was talking to everyone while I was on my bed. And the only time I got out of my bed again was when I was now doing the actual shoot for the video, which was more of a freestyle than a choreographed thing. So in case you're there dreaming, just do you. You never know who you're going to reach out. Back to you. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's funny about that video. I think there was something about that song in particular in 2020 that really inspired a lot of people. And my students as well, they got together and did a video all by themselves. It wasn't my idea. It was during the season where we were all dancing on Zoom, and they all, on their own initiative, got together and made a video to that same song. But that is, for me, that's what inspires me, is students and the people that I come in contact with. I always tell, I have a teacher training program, and I train some of the older dancers that I've been training as dancers, I start to train them as teachers. And one of the things I tell them very first when we start their training is, think back to your very first dance teacher. And all of us have memories, and for a lot of them that's me, but some of them it's somebody else. But for me, I think back to my first few dance teachers, and they have such a big impact on your life. I think it's because dance is a very personal thing. It's a very almost primal way of communicating, because with most art forms, there's another medium that you're going through. Like with music, you have an instrument that you're playing, drawing sound from. You have, the canvas that you're painting or something like that. But with dance, you are the medium, you are the instrument. And so it's a very personal thing. And so the person who is walking you through that journey has a big impact on your identity and your life. And so I want kids to recognize, I tell them, think about this first dance teacher that you had, or think about memories you've had of people who've impacted you, and just recognize that when you are a dance teacher, you are in a position to make a real difference in somebody's life. And that's I feel very blessed to have been put in that position for many people. But beyond that, it goes the other way too. I mean, all of my students inspire me daily, and it's the reason I've kept doing what I'm doing, is seeing them grow and seeing them become confident in themselves and in their talents, and then having the ability to nurture that and draw it out of them. It's a very special thing that I think is unique to dance.
I don't know, it seems, especially for this conversation, the whole cyclical effect. It's like sometimes you need something, but you don't get what you need first and then give it away to people. Sometimes you give, and that inspires you, and that gives back to you. And so it's really interesting that this whole like racquetball effect, you're like hitting it back and forth, and the ball is the inspiration. And so you've already given, my last question was people that give an example of someone that you've inspired, right? But you've already given so many examples of that. Looking back at people that you've inspired, like, I guess maybe which one was the most, not unlikely, but the one that you didn't see coming? Like when you gave, like, and you got inspiration from what they did with what you gave them, which one was the most, one that sticks out to you? If you already said it, maybe you can give another one.
I think I can start. For me, it's the first crew that I worked with after I decided to become a professional dancer, because I wasn't doing it. This crew is what taught me a lot of the lessons that I applied after I left and started my own thing. But at that point, I just wanted a crew that would dance for Jesus, and do a lot of, and become really good in their skill. And I invested about 3 years. I didn't charge these guys any amount of money. The times that actually they broke, and I'm asking God, hey, are you sure you want me to go there? Am I still meant to do this? And I'd have probably enough for transport. And what I had was enough to probably take me. And somehow God will provide. And then I'd come back and I still have the same amount of money I left with. God provided somehow. I ate, I went. But then the thing that now happened was after 3 years when I was really tired and left, sometime later, when I was working with my students, I looked at a photo of one of my events and all the guys who were on stage. And every single person in that photo had ended up in a leadership position somewhere in church, either in youth ministry or in internship, heading into pastoral work. All of them, like there was no one who was in that photo that did not end up in a leadership position at some point. Some of them ended up going into the corporate world. Some of them have become leaders in the church right now. And for me, that was the most inspiring thing, because it's reminded me that dance is a tool. You know, as in, of the people who interact with, probably 10 or 20% are going to be full-time dancers. The rest will leave and do God knows what out there. And we are the ones who get hurt because we identify a leader and they end up going into a different direction and they're like, dang it, I invested so much time in this person, you know. But then it reminded me that my work is not to hold leaders. My work to make leaders, to use dance, to teach them life lessons. One of the people from the dance crew, literally 3 days ago, we were having a conversation and she told me that the lessons I learned in dance are the same lessons I apply till date. Lessons on perseverance, lessons on not giving up, lessons on seeing things to the end, even when you don't want to. And those are things that we really underestimate. When you're learning a routine and you're not getting it and you have to perfect it for the stage, it teaches you perseverance. When you're going on that stage and you have butterflies in the stomach right before you go on that stage, it teaches you not to quit just because it's uncomfortable. A lot of the people who came were people who were shy. They were not leaders in any way. But then by the time they were leaders in their own right. Even the kids, I've seen kids who came very shy, and 3 years later, 4 years later, the mom is like, so this one is, you know, the school captain, this one is the loudest one in the class. I'm like, how? You came as the silent one, you know? So for me, that is probably that crew, that first crew. I honestly did not expect it. At least with others, you sort of have an idea because you've had a process for that. But for this first crew, I went in expecting oranges and came out of the farm getting mangoes. Like, I went in thinking all I was doing was teaching dance, and I learned that I was actually bringing up leaders. So, yeah.
Because I was just going to say, because, you know, when you train people, you're training people who can train people, and then it goes and it multiplies and it multiplies and it multiplies.
Yeah.
What about you, Katherine?
Yeah.
And we'll wrap it up.
Again, for me, it's not, I don't know that I can think of a specific one instance, but one thing that does come to mind is that I'm getting ready next year to graduate the first class who has been all the way through. So I've had graduates before, but they were ones who joined, you know, at an older age. So this first crew of kids who came to me when they were, you know, tiny, and next year they'll be seniors, and they're going to go out and, you know, some of them are planning to go away to college for various things, and one of them is even working currently on, you know, doing an internship with me at the studio to see if maybe that's a route she wants to take. But you're absolutely right. You know, some of them may dance, some of them may not dance. That's not the important thing. The important thing is that they're going out into the world, and the lessons that they've learned here in the studio will carry them through in their lives. And that's just such a wonderful thing to see. It's a privilege as a teacher to see that.
Yeah. And honestly, I feel like this conversation in itself is really going to inspire people that I'll be sharing it with. So thank you so much for jumping on and having this time. Thank you for not giving up, because like there's things that you know that you're like, oh, this is like, you looked at that picture, Sam, and it was like, these are all the people that, you know, became leaders that I was working with. But like, that's like the tip of the iceberg of things that you don't know, you know, because you don't know the type of people that they've inspired only because you inspired them first. So thank you so much for being on this conversation, but also doing what you're doing.
Thank you.
Thank you for having us.
Yeah, so those are the people that I'm privileged to call my friends. And yeah, I just, again, I don't want to make this too long because that was a pretty thick conversation. So take anything that you can from that conversation, share with other people, tag other people that may be in the community. And yeah, it's really about choosing really to get inspiration, or choosing to give, not necessarily to get inspiration, but to give inspiration, because those people always reflect back at you. You know, it's like yelling in like a really big echoey room. Like, when you give, it will always reverberate and come back to you, even if you don't know it. Like, you will see at least somebody that took what you did and will give you inspiration again, but you have no idea the other people that you're impacting, the other impacts that you've had. And so again, like I said in last month, you know, choreography and dance is a giving art. So know that what you're giving is so important, even if it's not replicating in the realm of dance, because it's the people that make dance important. So have a great night, and I'll see you next week.